Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natea and this is Aesthetics, where I talk about topics that I care about and you should care about too if you choose. Today we have a special guest with us, Mo from Solidarity and Co., who is a Black lesbian advocate, creative, and entrepreneur. Today we are going to be sitting down with Mo to learn more about herself and her business. So, hey Mo, welcome to Aesthetics. I'm happy to have you here on the channel today. So, we're just going to start off with getting to know you a little bit better. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your business.
My name is Mo. I am the creator of Solidarity and Co., which is an advocacy brand that kind of allows me to encompass all aspects of my personality, creativity, and connect with like-minded people like Natea. So again, Natea, thank you for having me. Um, a little about myself and my journey. I am from a small town and I have moved to a larger city. Through that move required a lot of transitions, and I continue to transition into becoming a small business owner. I have always been someone who has been passionate about my community, about creativity, and genuinely connecting with people who are like-minded. And so it's kind of just transition from being something that I did in my small town to now doing something that I do in my business.
So, how long have you been doing Solidarity and Co., and what made you start your business?
Yeah, so Solidarity and Co. was created about a year ago. It was really inspired by the events and circumstances around the George Floyd murder. And I was instantly moved into being a part of the movement and being a part of everything that was going on there. Um, because, as I was saying, this has been a bit of my passion since I was a little kid. And then I realized that at this moment, it was a time for me to transition into processing this into my adulthood. So in March, I had the idea. This was 2020. And in May, I went ahead and I began posting. And from there, it has just grown. Immediately, I was supported by my community, and we have been flourishing ever since. I think a big inspiration for t-shirts, which are a huge part of my brand and how, we've been able to monetize, is that I've always loved fashion and being fashionable, but being comfortable. And then I've always been known as someone who has a big mouth. So advocacy really was just for lack of a better term, advocacy was really just allowing me to use my voice for good. And I figured out how to combine those things. And when I did, Solidarity and Co was born.
I feel like a lot of us last year, a lot of us Black folks during the whole George Floyd and Breonna Taylor situations, it was very eye opening. It also like pushed us to do advocacy work like you are doing. So I'm so happy that that was able to inspire you to build a community and do something good for the community. Moving into a little bit more about yourself. So originally we were going to do this interview in June for Pride Month. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about what it means to you to be Black and proud.
Yes. So that means everything to me because at the core of who I am, I am a Black woman who was raised by Black women. I have a large family of predominantly Black women who are all huge voices and I would say powerful and inspiring in their own ways. And so Black is just who I am. It is at my essence and it is at my core. I enjoy my culture, but I'm also very proud of it. And then, of course, proud or pride is attached to me being both Black and being a member of the LGBTQ community. And as a Black lesbian, there was a journey to being proud of being both. I felt oftentimes that it was okay if I was proud of being Black in one situation, or in another situation, it would be appropriate to express my pride. And in this moment, as I am before you today, I am proud of both elements. And I live in that truth boldly because I'm advocating for both the Black community and for the LGBTQ community, as well as the Black LGBTQ community, as well as Black disabled people. And I do that all under the term intersectionality. Um, or identifying myself as being intersectional. And once I was able to put my finger on the word intersectional and learn what intersectional meant, I realized that I had always been existing at an intersection, and that, I guess, confirmation of the word intersectionality or being intersectional, created by Kimberly Crenshaw, was really enlightening for me and allowed me to embrace myself as both Black and proud, in the sense that I am of this culture, but I represent so many other cultures here, so many other classes, so many other marginalized groups, that I am able to be effective because of both my lived experience, the education I've consumed, and because of the passion in my heart that I have for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea of intersectionality, and I learned about it as well through Kimberly Crenshaw's, I think her TED Talk like 4 years ago. And just
Mm-hmm.
listening to that, it was very eye-opening to see how two identities can intersect into one and how you navigate with both of those identities. So I love hearing your story about how you don't neglect either of your identities, being Black or being a lesbian. And I think that's very important. And just through your social media, I notice how you take pride in your identity, and it's very admirable. So, did you always take pride in your identity, or was it something you had to build up within yourself?
Yes, that's a great question, because to touch on, before with the intersectionality, I come from a underprivileged community. I come from a single parent household. A lot of opportunities weren't available to me. And so being able to see, I guess, a plan or create a plan or vision for myself that existed beyond my community really allowed me to empower myself and motivate myself in tough times. So if I was not necessarily proud based on my identity while I struggled with coming to terms with it, I was definitely proud of myself because of the type of person that I was. I was proud of my good heart, of my ability to share and care for others, my ability to make friends quickly and make people laugh, and to really make people genuinely feel seen and heard, because I saw them and I heard them. And so their stories weren't lost on me. And so I was proud of being that person before. I was proud of even being Black or proud of being gay. That definitely took some time, but I learned how to maneuver it, and I really believe that I was able to accomplish this level of pride because at the foundation of who I am was all of these positive attributes. And so, yeah, it's been a journey, but it is something that I haven't always had. It is something that I've definitely learned and come to terms with. But I also kind of charted my own path and didn't follow the rules of the society or the community that I was in. I kind of learned to do things my own way.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important to go on that journey. And I'm happy that throughout that journey, you have found self acceptance and you have maneuvered in the world just being authentically you, which is so important. So, were
Yeah,
there any points in your life that you feel like you struggled or felt hesitant about being authentically you?
absolutely. As a Black lesbian woman, one of the things that I realized in adulthood that I didn't necessarily feel as a child was that I was constantly having to come out in new spaces. And, as this girl in a small town, it's like we all knew each other for the most part. We've known each other since we were kids. So literally my community was with me on my journey as I started to like walk about town with my girlfriend, or the rumors would spread that, I was potentially a lesbian. So I was hesitant to express it as a child, but when I became an adult and ended up being in the corporate sector, it was even more daunting because now every, new group that I was placed in, even within the same company, sometimes you'd be switched between teams, or you'd be promoted to a different project or be assigned different duties. And when I'm working with these new people, it is something that I feel compelled to share with people now. But in the beginning, it was just like, I don't know how these people are going to take me. Will they respect me the same? Will they, still feel as comfortable around me if that part of my personality was revealed? But I was also weary of making friends or connecting with people who did not understand me fully. And so it quickly became a requirement for me that if you were to embrace me in the professional level, then I also wanted to be embraced because of my differences. So I guess in that moment, I didn't want to be someone who came across as not proud or comfortable. I didn't want to come across as someone in the closet. I'd come out the closet long time ago. So it was something that, for me, I had to say this before people really attached to me, because I didn't want that to be a reason for us to no longer be able to work together, or any kind of disjointment within a group or a team setting. But yeah, as a kid, I was definitely hesitant. I was in this small town. I was kind of being outed before I even knew what my uh, sexuality was. And it was tough to handle that. It really was. It was a dark moment in my life. I
Hmm.
just really attached to Christianity at that moment. And I really was, throwing myself into asking God, like, his purpose, and what were his intentions for me and why this. And then, I think in those moments of prayer and in that darkness, I was enlightened that, I would still be loved, and he made me perfect in his image. And so I stopped questioning and stopped being so hesitant, and eventually like told my mom and told my grandma. And luckily, they still expressed their love for me in spite of it. And yeah, I was able, once my family knew, the most important people to me, I was able to kind of block out the haters,
Hmm.
so to speak, and continue to live my best life.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear that your family was accepting of you, especially your mom and grandma, because I know there are like statistics that show that people are part of the LGBTQ community. There's a large LGBTQ homeless population because
Mhm.
of their identity, and sometimes their parents like kick them out of their house. But I'm happy that with you that was not your story. So in regards to people who are a part of the community and they do go through like a dark place, just similar to you, what advice would you give to them, or just Black queer folks in general who are struggling or hesitant to express their identity to the world or at work or with close friends? What advice would you give to them to feel more comfortable?
My I guess my strongest advice in this moment is that I believe that we are all special and unique in our own way. I also believe that your identity as a gay person or as a member of the LGBTQ community, even those who are, questioning their sexuality or curious about it, that it is okay to explore that. Sometimes in that exploration is where you find your strength and where you find your ability to overcome, where you are able to foster some of the strongest and the best traits for your character. And so believe even in those toughest times that you are actually being developed into the person that you are supposed to be. And you are allowed to use your voice. Your voice matters. What you think, how you feel, what you have to say is valid, and seek community. My best advice there is that, even in that small town, I often felt like, girl, there's no one else like me. And I'll share a little bit with that because all of the lesbians that I'd seen were lesbians who presented themselves as male or studs, as we call them. And so for me to be a feminine lesbian who had always had a bit of an aggressive personality, I'm a Leo, and so
Mhm.
I go after what I want inevitably. And so I was just taxed with how to really express myself. And some of you may be feeling that need for community to see people that look like you. So online social media is a great resource to connect with community and to find answers to some of the questions that you may be having about coming out, to find support. But within you, you have to know that you are special, you are valid, you are supposed to be here. What you have to say matters, and your unique perspective is one of a kind and needed in this world. A lot of people use a cliche like it gets better. And I'm going to say to me, it's still a struggle. We see so many problems and issues in the LGBT community as advocates regarding our rights, regarding discrimination, um, regarding, just equality in general. And so we have to realize that we are together stronger. And so we have to find that community so that we are able to enhance what I call our superpowers, and just kind of join together these rainbow forces to shine a light on the world. Stay strong, but also feel free to be vulnerable with your community and in safe spaces, and try not to let the struggles lead you to doing things that are not of your character.
Mhm.
Of course, with homelessness, Natea, I also want to talk about, addictions that people experience because they are other, turning to things that they may not normally do. So please, in that time, even though it may be a struggle, remember that you are loved, that you are valuable, and of course, that there are people like you who need you and who need to hear your voice.
Yes, I love that advice. And I have one more question. Earlier, you were talking about intersectionality and being both a Black
Mhm.
and a lesbian woman. So, do you ever feel like with that intersection, do you ever feel left out of either group? Like when you're with your Black community, do you ever feel left out because of your lesbian identity? Or when you're in the lesbian community, do you ever feel like you're left out because of your Black identity? Just because I know that sometimes there is discrimination in both, where some Black people aren't as accepting of LGBTQ folks, and then some LGBTQ folks aren't as accepting of Black folks. So I was just wondering if you've ever had any experiences with difficulties with your intersection.
Yes, and that's a great question, Nate. I'm glad you asked it because I always feel that I am unable to remove either parts of my identity. So for me, it is important that both parts of me are represented in the spaces that I come in. When I am speaking with other advocates for Black women, I am sure to represent myself as a Black queer woman. When I'm entering Black women centered spaces, I am uh, cognizant to confirm that they are also inclusive of LGBT community members. And I try to take that step to find or use my voice to like find that out for other people, because it is true that we are sometimes not accepted or overlooked or overshadowed because of our or the othering of our identities in the LGBT community, LGBTQ plus community, for instance. Yes, as a Black woman, you see a lot of representation centered on white women, white LGBTQ couples. I think in order to make it more palatable for society and in LGBTQ spaces, you also have to be cognizant of the fact that you are a Black person who may be underrepresented in that space, whose voice may not be valued or amplified in that space. And of course, you may be uncomfortable. Sometimes that feeling of just being uncomfortable is tough to sit with as an intersectional person, because I don't even want to feel an ounce of being uncomfortable. And I say that because you've gone through life as someone who has to come out and come to terms with who you are. And so we, as LGBTQ people, we deal with so much, I guess, uncertainty or angst, and in a space that is supposed to be welcoming to you or feel comfortable for you, you don't want to feel othered. So I definitely feel like it is still a work in progress for spaces who are, for Black women to make sure that they are amply expressing their inclusion of other identities, of queer people. And I also feel the same on places that are for LGBTQ plus members, that they do their best to make sure that Black queer people are included. And so, of course, for me, inclusion and diversity is a big thing. And it's really cognizant sometimes in those spaces, where it's that I'm really cognizant sometimes in those spaces that highlight, like, just being here for one thing. Like, this is the Black girl space, for lack of a better time. And it's like, oh, well, are Black gay girls allowed in this space? I'm checking at
Mhm.
the door. And then they're like, hey, this is the LGBTQ plus space. And I'm like, okay, well, are Black women allowed? Like, are Black people cool here? And so that's always like the way of the world, I feel like, for people who are intersectional. And I encourage anyone listening who is a member of the LGBTQ community or Black queer women to pay attention, ask those questions, and don't be afraid to leave when you realize that this space is not going to include you or is uncomfortable for you. Set that boundary and don't put more intense pressure on yourself. And also, when you do find a good community that is inclusive and is for Black queer women, or you find an LGBT community where, Black people can come and have a good time too, then do not take that for granted. That's my take on that.
Yes, thank you for sharing your experience. I think for me, the reason why I asked that question is because, as you know, like my content is very pro Black, and so is yours. And I've ran into people who are, quote unquote, pro Black, but then they exclude Black LGBTQ plus folks. And to me, that just doesn't make any sense to me how you can be pro Black, but you don't include all Black people. So, thank you for sharing your experience about both sides and how being at the intersection has impacted you.
Of course. And I absolutely 100% agree with you on that, Natea. In order for you to really be pro-Black, you have to include LGBTQ people, you have to include the disabled communities, you have to include Black and Indigenous people. And yeah, we have, honestly, as Black people, infiltrated all cultures because we're just that dope. Um, and I just feel like we have to be aware of that and take pride in that. That's a bit of our brilliance. And that is a bit of why we are who we are, because we are able, I think, as a people to allow and welcome so many other cultures into ours and vice versa. Of course, not through appropriation, but through genuine connection and community. And I wish that were happening more when it comes with pro-Black spaces and the LGBTQ communities or other marginalized communities.
Yes, I definitely agree. Well, Mo, thank you for stopping by today and allowing me to talk to you and do this interview with you. It was a pleasure learning more about you, your business, and just some of your experiences as a Black lesbian woman. So
Yes.
of Mo's social media links, website, her podcast will be in the description box. So definitely go follow her on social media, on Instagram, listen to her podcast, buy some merch, do all of that good stuff. So, yes, Mo, it was great talking to you. And thank you again for doing this interview with me.
Thank you, Natea. I wish you and your brand all the success. And of course, hopefully, we'll be able to do something like this again in the future. But I really have enjoyed myself. Thank you for allowing me to express myself. You are sincerely appreciated. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.